What up, what up, what up, people, what up? Hey, I am putting the conclusion of the young Dolf trial on the record. Yep, so let's listen in.
Finish straight in court, will you?
Thank you.
All right. Here on sentencing on Justin Johnson, who was previously found guilty on 3 counts: conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and convicted felon in possession of a firearm. He's previously been sentenced to life on the murder, and we're here today to set sentence on the other 2 counts, the conspiracy and the convicted felon in possession of firearm. Will there be any witnesses called?
No witnesses, Your Honor. The only proof we're going to present is a victim impact statement that we're just going to read into the record. The family would prefer it that way.
Any witnesses?
No witnesses, and I had an opportunity to review the victim impact witness.
Does your client wish to make a statement? Wish the outcome of the
No, Your Honor.
You want to read that statement into the record?
Yes.
Take that into consideration.
November 17, 2021 is a day that will forever impact my life. On that day, it felt as if our whole world stopped. The pain of that moment was felt not only by myself and my family, but also the city and the fans around the world. In just a few seconds, a crucial part of my life was ripped away, leaving a void that will never truly be filled. Our family's holiday plans turned from gatherings of joy to grief, anger, and sadness. There will be no more moments of hearing his voice, no hugs, no family trips, no celebrations, and no laughter shared together. Those plans now exist only as memories. An unexpected death like this cuts differently, leaving behind a unique pain many can't imagine, especially when it happens so suddenly and violently. One day we're talking on the phone, sharing the news condition to the family, and the next he's brutally taken from us while on his way to give back to the community. A horrific loss that has haunted my family every day for the past 3 years. We went from not knowing if 2 of our family members were safe to learning that my brother witnessed a tragedy that no one should have to endure. The anger, anxiety, and grief we feel aren't isolated to me alone. They're felt by our entire family. Explaining to my nephew that his father wouldn't be coming home was unimaginable. But in that moment, I saw strength in him, a strength that could only come from God and the spirit of his family, my brother Dolf. In a world full of envy, jealousy, and arrogance, many fail to realize the impact of their actions until it's too late. Yet Adolf Robert Thornton Jr., better known as Young Dolph, understood the value of giving back. He created a legacy that will endure long after this tragedy. Unlike those who committed this cowardly act, Dolph lifted up his community. He extended his hand to those who needed it most and encouraged those around him to rise higher. Our family will never be the same, but we are committed to honoring his memory and vision, ensuring that the legacy of Adolf Robert Thornton Jr. remains as powerful as ever. I think about him every day, the greatness he achieved not just for himself, but for so many others. Death like this isn't something you forget. You learn to live with it, as healing is a continuous journey. And to the one responsible for taking him from us, know this. You may deny your actions, but the evidence speaks clearly. You show yourself to be driven by jealousy and cowardice. You may have tried to take a man down for the sake of envy, but in the end, you've lost far more than you could ever gain. The world sees you now for what you are, and as justice has spoken, You and all of those connected to this incident will forever be known as the man who chose envy and jealousy over humanity.
Thank you. Argument?
The state, Your Honor, has filed two motions in advance of sentencing. The first notice of enhancement factors that the state believes and would argue to the court applies in this case. So I'll start with those enhancement factors. The state has referenced enhancement factor number one, that the defendant has a previous history of criminal convictions or criminal behavior in addition to those necessary to establish his range. As the pre-sentence report evidences, Mr. Johnson is a range 2 offender for both the Class A felony conspiracy to commit murder and the Class B felony convicted felon possession of a handgun. Mr. Johnson has 3 prior convictions. He needs only 2, but he has 3 prior Class C felony convictions for aggravated assault. He also has a federal firearms conviction, and we could argue whether or not that qualifies as a D felony or an E felony, but there is no need since he has the 3 prior C's. He's more than enough to be a range 2 offender, the federal firearm conviction being a 4th conviction. He also has a misdemeanor conviction as well, so he has more than enough convictions to establish himself as a range 2 offender, and notably 3 aggravated assault convictions of violence, a conviction that involves the possession of a handgun. We'd ask Your Honor to place great weight on that factor in this case. We have referenced the enhancement factor number 2, that he was a leader. The case law is clear on this point that the enhancement factor is not the leader, but rather a leader in the commission of the offense. We heard that Mr. Johnson picked up Mr. Smith, provided the guns, had gloves on, drove the car to the crime, and was a primary mover of what resulted in Dolph's death that day. We'd ask Your Honor to find that enhancement factor applies to Mr. Johnson. Of course, this offense has other leaders as well. We heard the testimony that this was in fact a hit from an individual referred to in trial as Big Jug, and it was facilitated by Mr. Govan. But we all should ask you to also find that Mr. Johnson was a leader in the offense. Enhancement factor number 10, the defendant had no hesitation about committing a crime when the risk to human life is high. The state is well aware that this does not apply to the death of the victim, as that is included as an element of the offense, but rather to other potential victims. This crime happened in the middle of the day at a cookie store, in which Your Honor saw the video and could see that there were workers present in the cookie store. We saw the interior video shot from behind that worker who, if she hadn't have hurriedly ran into the back, would have been right there in the line of fire. Your Honor saw bullet holes inside the business. Of course, the windows destroyed by the numerous bullets that were fired, but you also saw bullet holes inside the business on the wall, and that created a risk of death to all the workers that were there. Dolph's brother, Mr. Thornton, was also there. You saw him on the video, some maybe 10 or 12 feet from Dolf when he was violently shot, and so risk of death was created to him as well. An open business in the middle of the day in Memphis with people there, we'd ask Your Honor to place great weight on that enhancement factor. Those would be the enhancement factors that the state is asking Your Honor to find with regard to setting the sentence of these 2 crimes that we're here to sentence Mr. Johnson on.
What about number 13?
The pre-sentence report does not reflect, Mr. Johnson was on supervised release at the time. The pre-sentence report doesn't reflect that, so I don't feel that we can argue that to Your Honor. Your Honor heard testimony in the trial that he was on this release. You heard that his brother was helping him facilitate phone calls with his probation officer to try to make it look like he was still in Memphis at the time. But
that last conviction took place within that 5-year time frame.
It did, Your Honor. So I mean, The fact of the matter is, Mr. Johnson was on supervised release at the time of, committing the crime. I think you have some proof before Your Honor, if Your Honor wishes to find that factor. So we did notice it. We didn't get a copy of the pre-sentence report till this morning, so I had expected the pre-sentence report to more accurately reflect that. Mr. Johnson, for the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, faces a sentence between 25 and 40 years, and for the handgun charge between 12 and 20 years. In setting those sentences, a recommendation of the state, given the existence of primarily the history of convictions, including violent convictions beyond that necessary, and the risk of life to individuals other than the victim in the case, the state would ask you to set maximum sentences on those two offenses at 40 and 20 years, respectively. The state has also filed, as Your Honor is aware, a motion for consecutive sentencing. And the state has noticed two of the consecutive sentencing factors with regard to consecutive sentencing. The first, that he has an extensive criminal history, and the second, that he's a dangerous offender, and of course the Wilkerson factors that apply to that count. With regard to him being an individual with an extensive criminal history, the Tennessee courts have ruled that Your Honor can consider not just his prior convictions, but the convictions for which he was found guilty that are before the court. So Mr. Johnson, by that count, has 3 aggravated assault convictions, a federal firearms conviction, a murder in the first degree conviction, a conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree conviction, and a second convicted felon in possession of a handgun conviction. 7 all serious, mostly all violent convictions. He's not 50 years old. Mr. Johnson's in his late 20s. So 7 serious, mostly violent convictions, and the state would ask Your Honor to find that is, in fact, a record of extensive criminal behavior should mandate consecutive sentencing in this case. We've also asked Your Honor to find that he's a dangerous offender. Well aware of, he's been convicted of murder first. It's pretty obvious he's a dangerous offender, but look beyond that to the circumstances of this case. This is a man who was not motivated by fear. He's not motivated by hate. This was a paid-for hit in the middle of the day at an open Memphis business, literally a cookie store, the assassination of an unarmed, innocent man. He was motivated simply by greed, desire for fame, and money. Your Honor also heard proof during the trial that, in fact, these two, Mr. Smith and Johnson, were on their way to commit some other crime against another PRE artist at some turkey giveaway when they happened upon the prize target, Dolf, and they acted like they did. We saw the video of all the shots, just a stone cold execution that put many people in danger only for greed and the desire for fame. Is that a dangerous person? That's absolutely a dangerous person. The Wilkerson factors to consecutive sentencing relate to the severity of this offense, a paid-for hit in the middle of the day in Memphis, and are they necessary to protect the public from this man? A man who is motivated to commit this first-degree murder in broad daylight, putting others in danger just because of greed and desire for fame. We heard this was part of a larger scheme to kill other PRE artists as well. That is evidence Your Honor can take into account. We heard testimony of it at the trial. I think all that points to how dangerous this man and the absolute need for consecutive sentencing in this case. I think Your Honor is very well, within the court's discretion and the law to order each and every one of these sentences consecutive and to give him the maximum sentence on each and every count. I think Your Honor could give him 60 years consecutive to the life sentence and be well within the law and well within what should happen. At the very least, This is what the state is asking. At the very least, his convicted felon in possession of a handgun charge should be run consecutive at 20 years. I think Your Honor's within the law to give him every day you can for what we saw in that video. But at the very, very least, the state asks you to make it 20 years consecutive to his life sentence.
Thank you, Your Honor. On behalf of Mr. Johnson, we'd be asking the court to sentence him at the bottom of the range as to each of those counts with concurrent sentences. I don't disagree with the state that this court has broad discretion in sentencing in this case, but I think principles of sentencing have to be strictly adhered to. I'll talk first about some of the enhancement factors. Submit to the court on all of the enhancement factors with the exception of whether he was a leader. I don't believe the proof in this case showed him to be either the leader or even a leader. Obviously, my client, as he stands before the court today, still persists in his innocence as I speak to regarding the record in this case and the facts in this case. I'm referencing the facts that were established at the trial that this court's relying upon. And what I would argue to the court there is what the facts showed in this case was that the individuals that were on the ground in front of that cookie store that day were not leaders in an offense. They were manipulated by others, whether it be Big Chook, Anthony Mims, whether it had been Hernandez Govan. That's what the proof showed, was individuals being manipulated by others who had power and were using that power and influence to get individuals to do their bidding. So I would object to the application of the enhancement factor that he is somehow a leader based on the proof presented at trial. As to the dangerous offender enhancement, I don't think that this instance allows for this court to meet the Wilkerson factors, because the added provision that the court has to consider is that the consecutive sentence is necessary, or the consecutive sentences are necessary in order to protect the public from further serious criminal conduct of the defendant. And I think it's easy for the state and even the court to look at this in a very technical aspect as it relates to the sentence in this case, but I think the sentencing principles require this court to redirect its attention to the practical effect. Mr. Johnson has been convicted of first-degree murder. That's life with a possibility of parole, which means he will not reach parole eligibility until he is served 51 calendar years. He will be in his mid to late 70s. And so the practical effect of the decision for this court is to render a sentence that is sufficient but not greater than necessary to affect the goals of sentencing by the least restrictive means available. And when you're looking at consecutive versus concurrent sentencing specifically, how is there an indication that a consecutive sentence is warranted based on the Wilkerson factors for someone who, by operation of law and the sentence already rendered by this court, won't even see a parole eligibility until he's in his mid to late 70s? There are multiple empirical studies that talk about recidivism rates and the drastic decrease in recidivism for offenders once they reach the age of 55 years old and older. He will be much older than that based on the sentence already rendered. And so there is no need, I would suggest to the court, for further protection of the community by rendering a consecutive sentence on either count. A life sentence has the practical effect, especially with Mr. Johnson, of being a life sentence. I know the court's also well aware of life expectancy tables of those incarcerated and the likelihood that someone will even live to their mid-70s after being incarcerated for 51 calendar years. The practical effect of that sentence is it's a life sentence, which is intended to be by the legislature. To come in today may make people feel better about how this sentence was rendered by stacking year upon year upon year, but it doesn't have the practical effect of affecting any goal of sentencing. A life sentence promotes respect for the law. It's sufficient, which he has. A life sentence is a significant general deterrent to others that lets them know that being convicted of this conduct, engaging in this conduct, results in serious penalty. There is nothing to be gained in furtherance of the principles of sentencing, which this court is bound by stacking the sentence beyond that of the life sentence that's from the first-degree murder conviction. And we would ask this court to sentence Mr. Johnson, as I said, at the bottom of the sentencing ranges for the other two counts concurrently.
In determining the appropriate sentence for this offense, this court has to consider any evidence presented at trial and the sentencing hearing, the pre-sentence report, the principles of sentencing and arguments made as to sentencing alternatives, the nature and characteristics of the criminal conduct involved, the evidence and information offered by the parties on the mitigating and enhancement factors, any statistical information provided by the Administrative Office of the Courts as to sentencing practices for similar offenses in Tennessee, and any statement the defendant made, if any, on his own behalf about sentencing and the defendant's potential for rehabilitation or treatment. Before I continue, Mr. Evans, did you file any mitigating factors?
I did not.
This court conducted a trial back in September where we heard from witnesses to this murder, Mr. Adolph Thornton. Much like the state categorized, this was a crime of envy and greed, money and fame. And the proof showed us that. We heard from several witnesses. We heard from Mr. Dolf, Mr. Thornton's sister. Testified she attended Mr. Dolf's funeral. We heard from Mr. Hawkins, who was a part of the security team who had worked for him for several years, who traveled with him. He was in his presence quite often, and he talked about the victim in what he was trying to do and that he was performing in concerts. But he also talked about that there was some sort of beef between CMG and PRE. He didn't quite know what it was, but he testified that Mr. Thornton, young Dolf, often called artists out in his music. And at times that did translate into some violence. But he wasn't a part of it. But he was aware that that did exist. We watched the video of this crime. Mr. Hopkins identified young Dolph's car because of some unique rap. And he identified young Dolph and his brother Marcus in the car together. And talked about how this whole thing has affected his brother Marcus. Then we heard from Amelia Smith, who is a co-defendant, who came into court, told you about his problems with pills, and told you about being part of a clan. Told you about a plan to kill, that there was a hit on several people of Young Dolph's organization. And he told you about he and the defendant, Mr. Johnson, taken out that morning in November of 2021 to find some of Young Dolph's folks who were possibly at a turkey drive down in Westwood. The video was played for Mr. Johnson, and he explained what was going on. He also explained the relationship between himself and another co-defendant who was called Quick. He said he was older, he lived in Orange Mound, and he bought drugs from him. And he said that's how he met the defendant, Justin Johnson, because he was around Quick. They also called the defendant, Justin Johnson, straight draw. He said Quick was a negotiator, trying to get a deal with Big Jook. And he said Jook had a hit on Dolph's head. And then so Quick started negotiating $100,000. Mr. Smith testified that he and Mr. Johnson, the defendant, were going to do it together. And they were going to give Quick $10,000 apiece. And he said that this has actually been the plan for a few weeks. He said on this particular day, the defendant came and got him from his father's house. They knew that they were doing this turkey drive down in Westwood. That there were artists, that there were prices on the artists' heads by Juke. The defendant showed up in a white Mercedes. He got in, there were guns in the car. It was a Draco and a handgun. He testified that the defendant had on gloves already. And he handed Mr. Smith gloves. He said that they sitting at the light at Lamar and Airways, and lo and behold, Dolf comes down the street. Wow. They trailed off down Airways, made the block, and came up the back way. They didn't see him get out of the car, but they pulled up behind Dolf's car at the cookie shop. Cornelia Smith testified that he was the first one out of the car. We saw in the video. We saw Mr. Smith get out of the car with the Draco. Mr. Smith started to shoot at Dolf. Then Justin Johnson got out of the car with a handgun. After they both fired, they got in the car. Justin drove. Mr. Smith testified he was hit in the leg and shoulder. And from that point, we watched on video where and how Mr. Smith and the defendant moved around from there. It's also important that witness testified, Mr. Smith testified that Justin Johnson FaceTimed Juke to let him know that they had completed that work. Juke said he would get up with them when he finished with his kids. Mr. Smith recalled that the defendant called his cousin in Whitehaven. They went and took the car that they were in to Quick, or put it at a house across the street from Quick's house, over in Orange Mound on Bradley Street. They changed cars. They went from the white Mercedes to a white truck, white SUV, Expedition. Then they went to the cousin's house in Whitehaven, where we saw on video. They changed clothes, saw a black Charger pull up. We saw the defendant Justin Johnson come out, got a bag. Mr. Smith testified that this was a wound kit. That because he was injured. We saw the defendant get in the Charger for a minute, in the back seat. Mr. Smith testified that when they went back in the house, when Justin came back in the house with the wound kit, they patched each other up. And then he texted his girlfriend to come get him. We noticed in the video that Justin took a yellow hoodie out of the back of the car that pulled up at the apartment. And when he came back out, he had that yellow hoodie on. Mr. Smith testified that he wasn't really worried about getting caught. He wasn't beefing with anybody. He didn't even know young Dolf. He just wanted the money. At the time, it was a lot of money. But once they split up, he kept trying to get in touch with the defendant for his money. At some point, Justin moved the car, the Mercedes, from the back of the house to the backyard in the bushes. In the house across the street from Ted. Mr. Smith testified that at some point he went back to clean the car up, to wipe it down. Mr. Smith testifies that Wet put he and Justin together, and Juke was the money man. Mr. Smith testified that he told the police he thought Justin had the same deal with Quet because Justin didn't bring him any money, didn't bring him his money. So at some point he thought maybe they did have a different deal. But he was under the assumption that they had the same deal. It's also important to note that Cornelius Smith testified that he was moving in conjunction with Justin Johnson. And as the proof was laid out in trial, we saw Justin Johnson in the same clothes from early that morning in the apartment where he lived in Crosstown, in the elevator going from the parking garage to the lobby of where he lived, in the elevator, and then waiting for the elevator in the same clothes. And then at some point, we saw where he changed those clothes and kept that yellow jacket on after the murder. We also heard testimony from Dr. Juliet Scantleberry from the Regional Forensic Center, who performed the autopsy on Adolph Thornton, who testified that the cause and manner of death was homicide. (4035-102) requires that I consider the following sentencing principles. That every defendant shall be punished by the imposition of a sentence justly deserved in relation to the seriousness of the offense. to assure fair and consistent treatment of all defendants by eliminating unjustified disparity in sentencing and providing a fair sense of predictability of the criminal law and its sanctions. Punishment shall be imposed to prevent crime and promote respect for the law, providing an effective general deterrent to those likely to violate the criminal laws of this state, restraining defendants with a lengthy history of criminal conduct. As to both the conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree and to the convicted felon in possession of a firearm, I find that the defendant is a range 2 multiple offender. The state asked this court to find enhancement factor number 1, that the defendant had a previous criminal conviction for criminal behavior in addition to those necessary to establish the appropriate range. The pre-sentence report reflects that the defendant has five prior felonies, three of which are aggravated assault. Crime charged was second-degree murder, and they were all reduced to aggravated assault. That conviction offense was in 2017. There was also a weapons offense in federal court where he was convicted in February of 2019. There's also this attempt to commit a felony. And I'm not sure what classification that is. Do we have any idea, Mr. Hagan, Mr. Evans? Do we know what that is in the precinct? You want to commit it on October 18th of 2018?
We did not judge. It actually shows no sentence either, no sentence information either. So when I was
It's
doing,
non-located item.
exactly, so when I was doing
You just didn't include it.
my count, I counted that as a misdemeanor since we didn't know. It looks to be in association with the federal firearms count,
Because,
so I think that for purposes of calculation and stuff, it
okay.
only counts one felony.
So I'm going to find that enhancement factor number 1, that the defendant has a previous history of criminal convictions or criminal behavior in addition to those necessary to establish the range. I'm going to add great weight to that in the fact that all of these sentences, all of these convictions appear to be violent offenses. So I'm going to find enhancement number 1. Enhancement number 2, the defendant was a leader in the commission of offense involving 2 or more criminal actors. We heard testimony from Mr. Cornelius Smith of this conspiracy, this plan to strike out that day to kill someone so they could get money. It was a hit. We heard testimony that it included Quet himself, Mr. Johnson, and Joe. We also saw that the defendant, we saw how he moved around. We saw videos. We saw videos where he moved in the middle of the night before this occurred to get that white Mercedes from a gas station. We saw where they exchanged vehicles. We saw where he made the phone call. Well, we heard testimony where he made the phone call to the cousin in White Haven so they'd have somewhere to go, hide out for a little while, so they could patch up their wounds and change their clothes. Heard testimony that he actually went and picked up Cornelius Smith. So I'm going to find enhancement factor number 2 that he was a leader in the commission of offense involving 2 or more criminal actors. The state also asked me to find enhancement factor number 10, where the defendant had no hesitation about committing a crime when the risk to human life was high. The state is correct. This does not apply to the homicide of Mr. Adolf Thornton Jr. This applies to the other 2 charges, convictions. Into the act itself, where there were people in that store that could be shot that day. There weren't a lot of people, thank goodness, but there was some employees in the business. There was a cashier whose life was in danger. The victim's brother was there. So certainly, the risk to human life was high. And I'm going to place great weight on that enhancement factor also. And although it appears that the defendant was on some sort of release after the aggravated assault convictions, because we don't have any proof of what kind of release. The pre-sentence report doesn't reflect it. I'm not gonna find that enhancement factor mark number 13. There were no mitigating factors filed, none found. We're going to find and sentence Mr. Johnson on the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, 35 years. That's a range 2 offender. As to the convicted felon in possession of a firearm, I'm going to sentence him to 15 years. As a range 2 offender. State has asked this court to run these sentences consecutively. They've asked me to find that the defendant is an offender whose record of criminal activity is extensive. They've also asked me to find that he is a dangerous offender whose behavior indicates little or no regard for human life and no hesitation about committing a crime in which the risk to human life is high. The court also has to find that circumstances around this offense are aggravated. That confinement for an extended period of time is necessary to protect society from the defendant's unwillingness to lead a productive life and the defendant's resort to criminal activity in furtherance of an anti-societal lifestyle. And the aggregate length of the sentences reasonably relate to the offense of which the defendant stands convicted. The state argues as to the defender having a record of criminal activity that is extensive, that the court can consider not just his prior history, which the court's already talked about, the three prior aggravated assaults in the federal firearms case, but also this first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and convicted felon in possession of a handgun. It's unfortunate that we've witnessed Mr. Johnson's progression in violent activity. He's had these prior convictions which dealt with firearms, which dealt with violence in the lack of regard for human life. And it didn't get any better, it got worse. A whole lot worse. The state also argues as to the dangerous offender that the defendant was not motivated because of fear or hate. That this was greed and money and fame. This was just a hit, a way for him to further his career. The defense argues that practically that no other time above the life sentence that he's already been sentenced to will protect the community. The defense argues that the life sentence will make Mr. Johnson eligible for parole somewhere around 70 or in his mid-70s. And there's no need to protect the community any further because of that life sentence. I don't know that the court agrees with that. It sounds good. I don't know that the court agrees with that. These were crimes that were committed in our community in the middle of the day, in broad daylight, other people around, for greed. Greed, money, and fame. I'm going to run count 1 and count 3 concurrently. But consent to the license. Lawyers,
We'll do the judgment sheets, Your Honor, get those to you in about 4 or 5 minutes.
thank you.
And Mr. Evans has filed the start of a motion for new trial. I think he has a request to get some transcripts, and I think we've emailed collectively about another date for the motion for new trial or status date, whichever Your Honor wants.
What about those other cases?
Okay, just hold them.
Have you spoken with the court reporter about how long that's going to take?
Not yet. I was hoping to do that today, and she's not here.
Right.
I have the order prepared to submit to Your Honor. I wasn't sure how long it would take her to do it, though. And so my suggestion with Mr. Hagerman was to let us wait and maybe set a status, wait until we can get with her and get an idea of.
So let's just set it. And on that day, if they're not prepared and you're not ready to go forward, we'll just reset it.
All right, thank you.
Okay? December 12th.
That date's agreeable, Judge.
I didn't give Mr. Johnson a total, did I? Life plus 35. Thank you. Reset this matter to September 12th, or motion for new trial. Stand in recess.
Court stands in recess.
Mr. Hager. Did we renumber those counts?
But that's beside the point.
You know, I mean, you got all kinds of stories for the barbershop.
It sounds like somebody's pulling up. Clear up the misinformation about your background on criminal justice.
I was probably one of the first elected prosecutors in the country to say we need to have reentry initiatives. And I designed from scratch and wrote out a program that focused in particular on young men who are arrested for drug sales. My policy was that we were not going to jail people for simple marijuana. And by the way, right now, I believe we need to just actually legalize the whole thing. And that's part of my platform.
Yeah, for sure. Shakur over here is a dean of students, and he works with our young people every day.
I'm from Philly, born and raised, uptown to be exact. I've been in education for 10 years. I started off as a teacher's assistant in a school in North Philly.
Only 1% of teachers in public schools are Black men.
Yeah, for sure.
1%. The statistics are if a Black child has a Black teacher by the end of third grade, they're like 13% more likely to
More
go to
likely to
college.
succeed.
Wow.
But to go to college even.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, part of actually my focus and agenda is what we've got to do to create incentives,
Mm-hmm.
which really are not necessarily incentives in terms of the will, but also we don't pay teachers enough.
Right.
Student loan debt is an issue, you know, and thinking about how we create incentives to actually recruit and retain, because we know the benefit to overall society,
Right.
and in particular to our children. You know, the beauty of human nature also is that when you set a high bar and you give people the chance to reach it, especially starting with our children, they will go for it every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. If you give a child from the beginning of their life all reinforcement that tells them they can be anything and do anything, and that they are loved and that they are special. I mean, that is one of the keys, I think, to what we can do for the children of our families, our community, right? I mean, I think about it, you know, I grew up at a time where, you know, Aretha was singing "You Are Young, Gifted, and Black."
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And every signal we received told us that.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, we weren't particularly special, but everybody told us we was.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
believed them.
But what we were talking about is representation and why it matters.
That's
And
right.
Being able to see yourself as a heroic figure.
Yeah, right.
Everybody feels lonely. Everybody
Yeah, that's
feels
true.
like just
That's
things
true.
aren't going your way. And when you
Mhm.
look around, the way that society is being constructed, the way that it's just everything is so against you. No matter who you are, you're going to have to hit the same roadblocks in life.
As a Black man, you know, it was about 2 weeks ago you released your plan for
Mhm.
Black men. And first, let me say thank you for doing it.
I loved it.
But
And
it's based on work I've been doing for years, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a lot of times brothers don't feel seen.
Yeah, but understandably.
And so literally having a plan that says, Black men, this is for you,
Right.
was extremely important. What we're seeing is getting more brothers to actually understand what's in the plan. But you also talked about other things. And I mean, I read the plan. I think it
So,
was
for
9 pages.
example,
I
to
read
your
it all.
point, I also know history
Mhm.
to understand why people feel the way they do right now. And it's based on fact. You look at World War II. Okay. The people who went to fight that war, who were predominantly men, went to go fight that war. They came back and America called them the greatest generation because they did such an incredible job. And so many gave their lives for it. So the policy was, we should invest in the greatest generation. They've done so much for our country. And one of the things that we did as policy to create federal programs to help them, including giving an incredible infusion of resources into helping people buy homes, to become homeowners.
Right.
But of course, we still had, at that time, incredible racism within the institutions.
Right.
So in spite of a policy that was supposed to benefit everyone, which boosted a lot of people, our Black servicemen did not benefit from that boost as much as others did. So you just look at these different moments in time, right? You look at redlining. I mean, it happened here in Philly. It happened all over the
Right.
country, which is Black people who were ready to buy homes in areas where they could then build the wealth, right? Were not allowed to buy in those places. And today, Black families are 40% less likely to own their homes
Right.
than others. Okay.
Right.
So part of my plan and policy is recognizing that, to give people a $25,000 down payment assistance if they're a first-time home buyer, which just helps people literally get their foot in the door. And then folks will save up. They'll do what they do to make the mortgage. Part of my plan is a $6,000 child tax credit for the first year of your child's life. Because as we know, the vast majority of our parents, young fathers and mothers, want to parent their children well, but don't always have the resources to do it. Part of my plan is about dealing with Black men's health. I mean, we know the statistics. First of all, Black people are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about our men, like twice as likely to die from things like colon cancer and prostate cancer.
I lost my wife last month to colon cancer.
I know you did.
So
I
when you
know.
talk about colon
I
cancer,
know you did. And I'm so sorry.
I appreciate that. But the truth is,
I lost my mother to colon cancer.
you're so right. We have to utilize our platforms to make sure that people understand early screening, early detection. And for brothers, like we'll come in the barbershop, we'll talk about everything else, but we won't talk about healthcare.
Yeah.
We won't talk about those things that could mean life or death.
That's exactly
So-
right. And the
so
quality of life too,
Yes.
right? I know and see and understand the dimensions of life that we are talking about when we talk about our men. And it's about home ownership. It's about being a business person. It's about having dreams. It's about having ambitions. It's about education. It's about health. And it's, yes, it is about the election, but it's more than that. Because part to the point that we've been talking about, and you talked about so beautifully, when people feel alone, it's very disempowering. Right? When you feel it's like you against the world, it's very disempowering. And I want people to know that they are not alone.
I tell people all the time, there's going to be a president, there's going to be members of Congress,
Right.
there are going to be governors, there are going to be members of the General Assembly, there are going to be mayors of city council. The question that we have to ask ourselves as Black men, are we going to have a say in who those people are going to be?
That's exactly right.
And when you don't vote, those folks still get elected. You just don't get to
That's
decide.
exactly right. So I wrote with Cory Booker the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act when I was in the Senate. And there were a bunch of folks who did not want it to happen and worked against it. And we still need to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Okay. But they worked against it. And then those are the same people who will quietly suggest, see, you shouldn't vote because nothing happens when you do. Because there are forces that also trying to obstruct the good work. And here's the thing, though, if you don't vote, then you're not deciding who's in the positions of power to make decisions like, do we pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act? You see the vicious cycle?
Right. Yeah.
So you don't vote, and then you end up taking yourself out of the game. And we should never take ourselves out of the game.
There's a national spotlight every 4 years around the big ticket, the presidential election and everything like that. There's also very important to make sure that you're voting in your local elections also.
Good.
Your judges, your state reps, your city council people, and also being, engaged in that process so that, you understand how all of these different functions work together.
Right. To get the word out, whether people vote for me or not, whether they vote or not. Well, although we want to encourage them to vote for me.
Everybody.
But let's get the word out so people also understand what they have a right to expect and demand. Because this is not about doing anybody a favor. It's literally the right thing to do. Period.
Well, you survived. You survived the barbershop.
I had no question about that. Were you worried?
I know. I mean, I knew you was going to do it.
I think you were worried.
No, I wasn't.
Were you all right?
You were Harris. You were Harris. That's how we built. Let's thank the Vice President for hanging out with us a little bit.
Thank you for letting me come into the barbershop. I know what a sacred space this is. I mean, it's so funny. I was going to say, but this is where America's news gets told.
No, for sure.
Right? Like all the press were here. This is where America's news gets told.
Vice President Harris and former President Trump are in a tight race for Georgia's vote, with Trump holding a 1-point lead in the latest polling, well within the margin of error.
Georgia has one of the highest maternal mortality rates of any state, according to the Center for Reproductive Rights. And nationally, Black women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy complications than white women.
NBC's Tremaine Lee sat down with a rarely heard from group of voters in Atlanta, Black men voting for the lives of Black women. And Tremaine joins us now. Tremaine, good morning. What did these men tell you?
Jose, maternal mortality and reproductive justice aren't typically issues we, consider for as men's issues, Black men's issues in particular. But I sat down with a group of Black men, among them 2 who lost their wives during childbirth due to complications, who are urging other Black men to get off the sidelines and vote as if the women in their lives, their mothers, sisters, daughters, and partners' lives are at stake.
For me, it's very simple, right? As someone that's been, drastically impacted and devastated through the loss of my wife, through maternal mortality, it's very clear Vice President Harris is the one that ideally aligns with, the person that I feel like would have the most compassion and empathy towards my family and everything that we experienced.
I'm thinking about my daughter, my friends, my cousins that this affects. Just thinking about the abortion laws that they want to put into place. It's kind of like if you have embryos, are they considered, viable or living, and can you discard them, or what do you have to do? You have to constantly pay for them being frozen. So it's just, I think the Harris administration will align more with my views.
The election is just days away. What role did maternal health play in your decision?
Oh, it played a major role. It was, I already knew I was voting for Harris, but it made it almost poetic that the person that she is running against, has done everything to try and whip up his conservative base. And one of the ways that he has done that is through these draconian abortion laws that he has supported.
I think that bottom line, Vice President Harris' track record around maternal health and specifically naming Black maternal health as a priority for this administration is unquestionable. I think in 2021, there were less than 10 states that had expanded postpartum care for mothers to a year postpartum. Now we have, I think, 46 as of January of this year. That's true change. And so you can't question it. With that being said, I have yet to hear anything from the Trump administration or his policy when it comes to making an impact on the maternal health crisis, and particularly the Black maternal health crisis.
I wonder for each of you, what is at stake?
My wife's life. She's pregnant right now. The Republicans here in Georgia have been more concerned about whether or not my wife goes and gets an abortion, or if a miscarriage that we've had could potentially have been done in a way that was insidious, than they have been about protecting my wife who wants to be a mom. Mm-hmm. There are many Black women who want to be mothers.
I never missed a prenatal visit for either of my sons. My wife never missed a prenatal vitamin, right? I went to the Lamaze classes. I held her hand, right? I looked the doctors in the eyes. I let them know that she had a husband that was here and was willing to die for her. And none of that was enough. None of that was enough to make sure that my wife walked out of that hospital to raise her sons. And so for me, although there's nothing I can do to bring Kira back, the highest honor we can pay her, the highest honor we can pay Yolanda, the highest honor that we can pay every single mother that's made the ultimate sacrifice, giving the gift of life, is to make sure we do everything we can, which includes electing people that prioritize maternal health and aren't ashamed to say Black maternal health.
Jose, this group of men have coalesced around an organization called Sister Song here in the land, which is a reproductive justice organization. And their message is dovetailing the closing argument from VP Kamala Harris and high-level surrogates like Michelle Obama that Black men should vote. Men should vote in honor of their women in their lives. And they should protect, especially Black men, protecting Black women, Jose.
Tremaine Lee, what a powerful and in so many ways important conversation. I thank you.
And joining us now, W. Kamau Bell, TV host and author of Do the Work, an Anti-Racist Activity book. And still with us, Simone Sanders Townsend. Kamau, so nice to see you again, my friend. What's your reaction to what we heard from these men about the role that women's health is playing in their vote?
Well, since my hair is all gray, I've officially entered my unk era, so I'm proud of those brothers. I'm proud of them, and if I was Kamala Harris, I would take them on the road with me, because I think a lot of times the talk around Black men voting is that it feels like it's responsibility politics or shaming, and those brothers are speaking from their heart, and that is way more powerful than anything even Barack Obama could say or Kamala Harris could say, because they are real men speaking from their heart. So I feel very charged up and proud of them.
Yeah, I mean, Simone, this is something that we rarely hear, and it's not anyone's fault, I guess, but that Tremaine was able to sit down and it seemed like such a private conversation, right? And yet with such massive significance. What does something like this, how much of an impact will something like this conversation have on the national discourse?
Yeah, I think it's a huge impact, right? I think that when we talk about the impact of the Dobbs decision, how Democrats writ large nationally have talked about it since the Dobbs decision has been the focus on just women. And I feel like now we're talking more nationally about the gender gap and how men are a part of this conversation. But when you drill down into communities, men have always been a part of this conversation. Those men that were in this focus group with Tremaine in Georgia, they are the not even just a physical representation. They lived the harrowing stories that Mrs. Obama talked about in her remarks in Kalamazoo with the vice president just last week. And this is real for voters all across the country. It's why I fundamentally believe that actually the impact of Dobbs, we actually are not seeing it reflected in the data because this is the first presidential post-Dobbs. It's not a theoretical conversation for these men in Georgia or men in Texas or men in Arizona, men in South Carolina, men in North Carolina. This is real. Women are bleeding out. Women are dying from sepsis. Men are coming home from the hospital without their families. And I feel like when we put it in such real terms, then it becomes more of an accessible conversation for folks. I'm really grateful for Tremaine for bringing the conversation to the forefront.
Kamala, I'm curious how you are looking at like the closing arguments we're seeing from both candidates, frankly, especially as they are courting some of these key constituencies, these voters of color, Black voters, Latino voters. Are their messages landing with the voters who need to hear them?
I mean, I would. Tuesday will tell. I don't think everybody is looking at this from a million different angles. We are not sitting around watching the same news channels anymore. We have Joe Rogan who somehow thinks he's Walter Cronkite, which is weird. So I think we have to understand that everybody's looking at this differently. We have a huge percentage of the country who, no matter what Donald Trump does or says, they are voting for him. That is their guy. And then we have people on the left who are often voting for reasons that are individual and very powerful to them. And so I think you have to wait until you get in that voting booth to decide. I'm telling everybody it's going to be, act like it's going to be close and act like your vote makes the difference.
Simone, on yesterday, J.D. Vance went on Joe Rogan's past podcast and was asked about abortion. Here's part of what he had to say.
This is not true of the gross majority of our pro-choice citizens, but you do sometimes see people they'll go on TikTok and they'll celebrate having an abortion.
Yeah.
I've known many, many women, usually when I was younger, who chose to have abortions because they felt like they didn't have any other options. And, I don't judge them. I think that a lot of them just felt like they were completely trapped. And they made the decision that was ultimately right for them. Again, my argument is we need to try to gain those women's trust back because clearly the Republican Party on this issue has lost a lot of trust. But none of them were baking birthday cakes and posting about it afterwards.
Simone, just what's your reaction to that?
Well, you know what? Joe Rogan did push back. So
Right.
I'm glad for Joe Rogan.
He said
Thank you,
people
Joe
aren't
Rogan.
celebrating.
Yeah,
He said that's a little extreme.
It's very extreme. Look, I think the problem is that J.D. Vance talks about earning women's trust back and that the Republican Party apparatus has to do that and Republican elected officials. The issue with the ability to earn women's trust back is, no, Republicans did not run on jailing women, jailing doctors, fining women, fining doctors, making women bleed out in parking lots, right? Making 10-year-olds have the babies of their rapists. But that is exactly what is happening in many places across this country. Literally, every state in the South except for Virginia, if you go into a hospital and you're pregnant and you have an emergency, they are first going to say, I can't do anything for you because you are pregnant. They're going to say, I need to call the lawyer, not let me give you the healthcare that you need. And so, again, it's not a theoretical conversation anymore. So J.D. Vance, the Republican Party apparatus, hasn't done anything about the realities that women are dealing with in this country, across the country. They haven't. And the unresponsiveness to the reality of the situation, I think, is the consequence that people will meet at the ballot box. More than 3.5 million people have already voted in Georgia. More than 873,000 Black voters specifically, like those Black men in Georgia that Tremaine Lee talked to. These are record numbers, and it's going to make a difference.
Kamala, your thoughts on what we heard from Vance?
First of all, I've been trying to avoid J.D. Vance content, so now I got a migraine. Thanks for that, MSNBC. I would say this. Joe Rogan isn't sure we landed on the moon and yet felt like he had to push back against J.D. Vance. That tells you a lot about where J.D. Vance and his political policies lie. That even the guy who's always high on weed, who's not sure we landed on the moon was like, wait a minute, JD Vance, I think you're talking crazy.
Vice President Kamala Harris in Madison, Wisconsin, as she makes her way through the battleground states, responding to some dangerous rhetoric made by the former president.
Who would be in charge of health care for the American people is someone who has routinely promoted junk science and crazy conspiracy theories, who once expressed support for a national abortion ban, and who is the exact last person in America who should be setting health care policy for America's families and children. And then, even worse, he has increased his violent rhetoric, Donald Trump has, about political opponents, and in great detail, suggested rifles should be trained on former Representative Liz Cheney. This must be disqualifying. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president. Representative Cheney is a true patriot who has shown extraordinary courage in putting country above party. Trump is increasingly, however, someone who considers his political opponents the enemy, is permanently out for revenge, and is increasingly unstable and unhinged. His enemies list has grown longer, his rhetoric has grown more extreme, and he is even less focused than before on the needs and the concerns and the challenges facing the American people. I have also thought a lot about what this means in terms of our standing in the world. As vice president, I have represented the United States of America around the world. And what I know is that when we walk in those rooms representing the United States of America, we have the earned and self-appointed authority to then talk about the importance of democracy, the importance of rule of law. And as a result, people around the world who are fighting for freedom and opportunity hold us up as a model. America deserves better than what Donald Trump is offering. America deserves a president who understands our role and responsibility to our people and to the rest of the world to be a model. So I'll end with this. Voters are making their decisions. Many have voted, but there are still those who are making a decision about who they'll vote for. And what I offer is I ask folks to, among the many issues before you, just consider who's going to be sitting in the Oval Office on January 20th. Either you're going to have Donald Trump there, who will be stewing over his enemies list, or I will be there working hard on your behalf on my to-do list. That is the choice among many that is at stake in this election, and I would be proud to earn the vote of the American people, and I do intend to win. With that, I'll take any questions.
We are indeed. President, have you had a chance to talk to Liz Cheney? And then secondly, are you concerned about her general security? And considering the situation and how tense things are, do you think that the government or the administration some point needs to provide her with security in this situation?
So I've not talked to her since this comment was made, but I will tell you, I know Liz Cheney well enough to know that she is tough. She is incredibly courageous and has shown herself to be a true patriot at a very difficult time in our country, where, to your point, we see this kind of rhetoric that is violent in nature, where we see this kind of spirit coming from Donald Trump that is so laden with the desire for revenge and retribution. And Liz Cheney is a tough person. She is an incredible American, and I have an incredible amount of respect for her. I think that Liz Cheney is courageous, and that we will always make sure that we are all fighting against and speaking out against any form of political violence.
About early voting, what is your assessment? What is the data that you're seeing across the battleground?
I'm seeing the folks who are showing up at the various places where we are inviting people to come and talk with us and where we are talking about the issues at stake. And I'm seeing an incredible amount of enthusiasm from people of every walk of life, every generation, from our first-time voters to folks who are seniors and have a lot at stake on issues like Social Security and Medicare. And what I am enjoying about this moment most is that in spite of how my opponent spends full time trying to divide the American people, what I am seeing is people coming together under one roof who seemingly have nothing in common and know they have everything in common. And I think that is in the best interest of the strength of our nation.
By a lot more women showing up in Pennsylvania, a lot of Democratic women, first-time voters.
Women, men, folks of every background are showing up.
Vice President, you've had quite a lot of interruptions during your speeches recently, a lot of pro-Gaza protesters, and you certainly have spoken about democracy and responding to them, but do you think that you need to say a little bit more about the Mideast conflict or about what you would do to try to satisfy them? And are you concerned at all about how you'll do in college towns and in Michigan in particular with them? President Trump today is going to Dearborn, is going to a Palestinian restaurant. This is the second kind of Arab American restaurant he's gone to. He seems to be really trying to make a play for a group that would traditionally be pretty democratic. Do you think you've done enough to reach these voters?
Well, I'm very proud to have a significant amount of support from the Arab American community, both because of my position about what we need to do in Gaza and in the region to end the war and bring the hostages home, and my commitment to a two-state solution, but also because within that community, there are many issues that challenge folks and that they want to hear about, including what we're going to do to make housing affordable, what we're going to do to bring down the cost of groceries, what we're going to do to invest in small businesses. I have a plan for all of those things, and that is something that resonates within that community and with all Americans.
They want to show the administration that what they did, that the policy and the support for Israel is wrong, and are going to make a statement, and that they don't care if it makes Trump the president. What would you tell them?
So there's a real contrast in this race when you look at who stands for democracy and democratic principles and who does not. Donald Trump is talking about an enemies list. He is talking about using the American military to turn on American citizens. He talks in a way that suggests that there should be retribution and severe consequence just because people disagree with him. My point is very clear. I believe in our democracy. Democracies are complicated in a wonderful way because we like debate. We accept and receive differences of opinion, and we work them out. One of the reasons I am going to have a Republican in my cabinet is because I want different views. I enjoy and benefit from diverse views from different perspectives that allow me then to make the best decisions I can make. That's a big difference between me and Donald Trump. And that's the big difference between someone who truly is a leader and someone who is in it for themselves and wants unchecked power. Thank you. Okay, thank you all.
Laying out all the difference as she addresses reporters. VP Harris, they're spending the day campaigning across Wisconsin, trying to mobilize and energize the voters to get out and vote. And she's going to have this huge rally tonight there in Milwaukee. Cardi B headlining. She's not only doing everything she can to get the votes across these battleground states, but she's also bringing in a lot of star power along the way as well. Let's bring in our Alex Prochet, who's been following the vice president. Really, a lot of this is combating the rhetoric that the former president has been putting out there and then trying to make this distinction that do you want an America that is all about the issues, or do you want an America under the former president that likes to, use rivals as target practice with dangerous rhetoric?
Wow. You know what? I'm glad I put that pack together for at the last moment of black men speaking on this current election. I am so glad I put it together because you know what? This election is going to tell us who we really are. And I can't wait to see the results. I can't. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It was ridiculous. 2016. But we ain't gonna go there because you know what happens when we go there with 2016. Honey. Oh, Lord have mercy. But yeah. So I am so glad I did put that back together. You know. But I mean it's sad to say, it is sad to say. Because I can't say this for all black men because I do know a lot of black men who make women or women issues a focus, sometimes a priority, given whatever situation or circumstance, right? But overall, right? I'm not gonna say. Well, I won't say overall. That's a bad word to use. To a certain particular mindset when it comes to black men. When have they ever put a black woman um, put issues that affect a black woman as a priority? When have they ever done that? I want to know. You know, I'm just hoping and praying that the black men that I recognize come out and really, really just run circles around, like 2 to 3 to 1, to the black men that for some reason think Trump is their answer. Because he's not the answer to America or the world. He is their answer. And I just think that is a selfish way of thinking. I think that, um, you know, I don't know if this is her first time, like, visiting where black men usually, congregate at. I don't know. I don't know if she has ever made a message directly to appealing to black men. I don't know. I haven't had anything pop up, you know, on my feed, so I hope this wasn't, one of a a um a last moment effort. Of course, I mean the numbers should have told them all the time that hey, there you're having a problem with black men. You may need to focus in that area. Talk about the issues that affect black men. It's like I've always maintained that they always focus on the middle class, never focus on the poor. And the poor sometimes die without even hitting the floor of the middle class. So, we got to get our priorities together. We have to get our answers, our priorities together. But I think it's so strange. It is very, very strange, right? And luckily, I don't have any black men in my spaces, any of them, that I would have this stupid ass conversation with, that I would, be concerned with. But now think about it. If you think you know me, or use what I do online as a sample, you know damn well ain't no black man talking crazy can be around me. Or we can be cool, or we can be whatever, because that is never going to be, that ain't going to work out. Because they're going to feel inferiority complex, they're going to feel a way about me, and I'm definitely going to feel a way about them. I'm going to call their ass what? Weak. you know. I mean, it's pretty much, and I hate to say this, but, we are seeing who they are, right? And black men are defunct. Okay, just like a business, they gone out of business. They like I just don't know, and I'm not talking about not all of them. So if it doesn't apply, then don't apply it to you. That's not what I'm saying. Cause I know some good ones. You baby, what? I know some good ones, honey. I thank the Lord for those examples, cause I know the difference. I know the difference. But if you're a person in all your life, you've seen nothing but defunct black men, or people that just black men because they were born that way, then hey, I feel sorry for you. And just because you've had those examples, if you are a male, if you've had those examples, don't mean that you got to imitate. All right, you can be better. You can be better. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. It's a goddamn shame. I think my mouth is so swollen, but it's a shame, right? You see earlier, young Dolph's murderer, he got 50 years. They trying to get y'all up off these streets, and y'all are helping. So I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, they're coming after black men. No, you're coming for yourself. You are coming for yourself. And I don't like seeing that. I don't like seeing it. Because it brings about a widespread of hurt, a widespread of concern, a widespread of just so many negative things for a lot of people, for the people that love your dumb ass. This is the truth, right? A widespread of hurt. And it's just crazy. It's crazy. These are young people. 50 years, 30 years, all that shit. That's damn near life sentence, right? Lil Durk, he's facing death. Like, what the fuck? And I've watched the destruction of the black man up close and from afar. And it's so crazy because majority of them have a hand in their own destruction. You know, I'm not shy about my story. I've told it in um in audiences, right? So I'm not shy about that. I mean, no big deal, not to me. So my dad, he been down for murder twice. One before I was born, and one after, right? Um, and I could, I mean, you know, I don't agree with none of that, right? I don't agree with none of it. Um, I think when you put yourself in a certain lifestyle, right? Sometimes shit will happen. Okay, sometimes shit will happen. I know when we got shot at, it was because we went over there fucking with them people. You know, we put ourselves in that particular situation. And we had to take off on foot, right? Crazy. It's like, and I know certain situations may lead to you becoming a criminal out of necessity. I get that. But I also get that other people have faced the same conditions or worse and they chose something else. So I'm not that sympathetic to people that continue to break law, break law, break law, break. Now come on. You heard that guy's arrest record, and he's in a position to make money. What's his excuse? You got an opportunity that most people don't get. You have the opportunity to make money. What's the problem? Why you out here committing murder for hire? Come on. I can't. But I just can't. I can't be that sympathetic. I'm more empathetic than sympathetic. All right. I just can't. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. But I'm gonna tell you something that is the root cause damn near every time, if not every time. And I don't like to speak in absolute, so that's why I said damn near. Let me tell you, that crowd. My family warned me about the crowds, warned all of us anyway. And when you are around certain kinds of people, you become vulnerable and you sometimes make bad decisions. Trust me, I know. So crime isn't always done due to a need. It's done due to an opportunity and a whole host of social reasons, right? Trying to fit in, trying to be one of the boys, one of the girls. Yeah. I'm not telling you nobody else's story. I'm telling you mine. That's what I'm telling you. From observing it up close and far away. So, although I believe the system should impact the lives of those who do wrong and those who are wrong, I do believe they needs to be fair on both sides, right? Nothing, you know, nothing that suggests that you're not even given rehabilitation a chance, right? Now, with that guy that killed young Dolf, look like he's been on a, and he took his shit, right? He ain't ratting people out and all of that. Okay. But it didn't seem like he was interested in rehabilitation. I think the difference with Jeffrey and YSL, I think maybe he had time to find out that this ain't this ain't hot. Going on there not knowing your future, right? You don't know your future. You don't want to deal with this shit. You don't want to do that. You know, and that's why it's so important for parents with male children or any children, period. But especially if you have males, please, 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 don't think that the little shit they do is cute. Don't take money from them, even if you need it. All that type of shit, right? Especially when you know what they're into. Don't do that. I don't know how you figure it out, but don't do that because it only makes it seem like they have a sign of approval from you, and I know that's of course with some people I don't know, but I know that with most people who care about their children, that's not what it is. But that's impossible. But yeah, I hate to see it. It seems as if um because remember, right? America has always had a negative attitude when it came to rap. Remember? Way back in the day. And I don't know if they are seeing this, whatever they're trying to do, this net that they are throwing, is a way to get the lyrics and the acts that may be influenced by the lyrics or the acts, you know, off the streets. I don't know if that's their mindset, right? And it doesn't mean that everybody get on the phone together and say, "Hey, we're gonna do this." No, 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 no. You can send a signal. Just like all them Diddy lawsuits, where the wording and stuff is all pretty much copy and paste, and or and it be from the ones that are from the same um, law firm, but then you have that are from different law firms that will always reference Cassie Ventura's case and all of that, right? Now you can definitely write a lawsuit up and leave that out. But to me, that shows um, some sign of unity, right? Might be a silent unity. So I don't know. You just got to be very very careful because we also have a society that, in just my opinion, think that black people are on the rise. We're taking over. You know, it's just that I appreciate listening to those black guys in that barbershop. Right? I appreciate listening to them. Um, I don't want to, I can't say enough how when there's no disrespect, when you hear people say that, oh, Obama ain't doing nothing for black people, as if he was the president just for black people. He can't, you can't go in there and just make policies and issue out money and all this shit just for black people. You can't do that. That's not how government works. That's not how it's set up. Like nope. So I tried my best to stay away from those kind of mindsets and things like that because it never goes well with me. I'm very insulting. I'm nice here. In real life, oh my gosh, you say something stupid, baby, I'd be like, stop the car, I'm gonna punch this person. Because I am. Because I need more minutes in a day. So I don't need not 1 minute being taken up of with foolishness. The devil is a liar. I can't take all of that. That's too much for me. It takes me out. I want, try. But I'm trying to tell you, get your people picking process together. Get it together for your children. Just because you live in a in community housing, it's like what I'm gonna start calling it. Don't mean that you have to let them go out there and play with, you know, the Ray Rays and the Day Days and all them little bad motherfuckers, them little children that have muscles at the age of 7. 1 minute. But yeah, I think it is. I don't know. I just I don't know why we. It seems as if, and I'm trying to tell you, we always fucking something up. Black folk. I'm gonna tell you that now. We always fucking something up because you had all these elections, right? Where the clear put like this, the person that was best for America wasn't always clear, wasn't always clear, but you can see where someone may pick A or B. But in elections, where it was clear who the better choice was, it seemed like we were making that choice. I don't know what the hell done happened. Okay? Got me tilting my head to the side, like, huh? Got me tilting my head to the damn side. That woman, she came out. What up, peace? That woman came. Oh, that woman. Okay, that woman came to that podium and answered those questions without spewing out all kind of crazy shit. Just crazy shit. Last night I played him on Tucker Carlson. He just went on and on and on, which is fine. I mean, I love that type of style anyway. But he was just lying and stuff. I'm sitting up there like fact checking some things, whatever, and I was posting on the wall like, what? 100,000 people at a rally. When Trump? Where you had a rally at? Can you tell us? He knows he be lying. Or he is just listening. Oh, I know he does this. He says things that he has no evidence of, or maybe even have evidence of the contrary, and he'll say it anyway just because he think it helps him in the polls. I'm like, what? That to me, like that tells me if you will sell out America if it helps your goddamn standing your position with somebody else. I don't want to hear that shit. You all about America. You all about America. My ass. You nuts. It's nuts. Nuts to me. Like who? Like what? Shit that don't make no damn sense. Oh, look at this peanut the squirrel. Oh Lord. So let me read this to you, right? Now I know I done got soft because I wouldn't generally care about no shit like this, about no peanut the squirrel. But I don't think. See, okay, it says social media star Peanut the squirrel has been euthanized after being seized from a New York home. Says the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and Chemung County Department of Health announced through a statement on Friday afternoon that both a squirrel and a raccoon confiscated from a residence on Wednesday had been euthanized to test for rabies. The statement said a person involved in the confiscation investigation was bitten by the squirrel, Peanut Squirrel, who boasted 534,000 followers on Instagram, was taken from his home in Pine City, New York, by the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, on Wednesday morning. Peanut, also known as Peanut, was the beloved pet of content creator Mark Longo. In more than 1,400 posts shared to Instagram, Peanut can be seen munching on waffles, jumping through hula hoops, and greeting Longo home from work. According to DC and Health Department statement, rabies have been found in raccoons in New York's southern tier, which includes Pine City, for more than 30 years. Over the past several days, Longo has shared several statements on Peanut's Instagram account, keeping fans updated in hopes that Peanut may return home. At the time of publication, Longo had not posted in regards to the recent news. It has been a terrible nightmare for me, Longo said in his most recent video, posted Friday morning. Oh wow. This is some fucked up shit. Hold on, let me see.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everybody coming together for this. I haven't received any updates on Peanut. We're still in kind of the same waiting stage. But as we're waiting, we still have to focus on our nonprofit animal rescue. So I can't thank you all enough for the love and support. It has been a terrible nightmare for me. But we still have 300 animals to take care of. So if you guys can continue to sign the petition and donate if you can, it really means a lot to us. The traction for the last couple of days has been incredible, and it's all because of you guys. So I can't thank you all enough, and thank you for sticking with us and my family. We love you all. So please continue to spread the word, and let's get Peanut back.
Oh wow. In response to Peanut's seizure, a Change.org petition and GoFundMe campaign were created to return him, Peanut, to his family. As of Friday afternoon, the petition had 28,025 signatures, and GoFundMe raised $7,875. Why do they have to use it? Right, according to the Centers for Disease, animals showing signs of rabies must be euthanized for the submission of specimen to a qualified rabies laboratory for testing. Wow. Man, that's sad. That's sad. Me either, peace. Me either, y'all. And lastly, real quick, and I ain't even put the darn topics up, but my bad. We got to look at something that happened in Orlando. Halloween night. So let me get that together.
Breaking news at 6 o'clock. Halloween celebrations took a deadly turn following a mass shooting in downtown Orlando.
Whatever his mindset was, he was going to shoot no matter what.
Within the hour, we've learned 8 people were shot, 2 have died, and now a 17-year-old is in custody. We thank you for joining us here at 6 a.m. for West 2 News Sunrise on this Friday, and we are going to cover this breaking news for you and bring you everything we know. I'm Jason Guy.
And I'm Meredith McDonough. Let's get right out to West 2's Bob Hazen in downtown Orlando. And Bob, they do have a suspect in custody.
And that suspect is 17 years old. And right now, Orlando police still have some of the blocks down here blocked off. You can see right here, this is at Orange Avenue and Pine Street. The shooting, at least the first shooting, actually happened one block down the road there at Central. And that's where right now the medical examiner is still conducting their investigation of the victim who was shot there. We do know 2 people were killed in this shooting. There were thousands of people out here. And I want to show you some surveillance video that we got from Orlando police this morning. And you can see those huge crowds out on Orange Avenue. There's a figure that's blurred in that video. That's one of the victims who was shot by the suspect who ran into the crowd, opened fire. We're told by Orlando police that that suspect, who was 17 years old again, ran from that spot to Washington and Orange Avenue and then shot more gunshots and killed another person there. Several other people were wounded, we are told. In total, 8 people were shot. Again, 6 of them were hurt, 2 of them were killed. And at that second location at Washington and Orange, that is where Orlando police, an officer was able to take the suspect down. We're told he actually saw some of the shots being fired there, took the suspect down, and he was arrested. And we heard from the Orlando police chief this morning about his officer's response to this attack.
During this night, we had about 100 officers who were working in detail, spread out. And as you can see in all the videos, the officers responded very quickly. The officers did a great job. They responded right when they heard the shooting. You know, as everybody else is running, they're not. They're sitting in a position looking for a shooter. They found a shooter and they took him down.
Now, again, a 17-year-old suspect in custody. We don't know, though, what the motive for this is at this point. Orlando police, the chief said that it looks like it might have been a targeted shooting, but they have not been able to confirm that yet. They are still investigating what did lead up to this shooting. He estimated there was between 50 to 100,000 people out here on Orange Avenue for the Halloween celebration. Again, we are working to get more information about what did lead up to this attack. As we get that throughout the morning, we will bring it to you. Reporting live in downtown Orlando, Bob Hayes, West 2 News.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Everybody ready? All right. Good morning. The Orlando Police Department is currently investigating a shooting with multiple victims in downtown Orlando. At approximately 1:07 a.m., officers reported shots fired at Central Boulevard and Orange Avenue. Within minutes, a second report of shots fired was called in south of Washington Street on Orange Avenue. At this time, we are aware of 8 total victims. 2 are now deceased. 6 other individuals who were shot were transported to ORMC for further treatment. Those victims are currently in stable condition. Shortly after the report of shots fired, a shooting suspect was located and taken into custody at Washington and Orange. He has been identified as 17-year-old Jalen Dwayne Edgar. He was previously arrested for grand theft in 2023. This is still an active investigation. As we gather more information, we'll provide you with another update. So what we're going to do now is go over some videos. is Orange and Central. If you follow where the blur is, play back. So you see the suspect will walk up, shot fired right there. Everybody takes off running. The suspect takes off running towards Court Street. Then the suspect reappears near Orange. Play that one back. That was quick. He reappears at Orange and Washington. Then the shots are fired again. You watch the back of this pickup truck, police pickup truck. Watch the officer start moving. The officer identifies the suspect. He witnessed the shooting. Takes the suspect down. Other officers come to assist. Now we're going to that officer's body cam. Some shots are fired, people start to move quickly. The officer sees the suspect, moves in on him, takes him into custody. So as you can see from this video, downtown's a very busy night. Halloween's one of our busiest nights of the year. Always is. Usually the Halloween night itself is busy. And then the Saturday after Halloween is always almost just as busy. We're doing anywhere from 50 to 100,000 people. As you can see from the picture, the crowd's gigantic. And this is just on Orange Avenue. So we're dealing with a very, very large crowd. And during this night, we had about 100 officers who are working in detail, spread out. And as you can see in all the videos, the officers responded very quickly. The officers did a great job. They responded right when they heard the shooting. You know, as everybody else is running, they're not. They're sitting in a position looking for a shooter. They found a shooter and they took him down. But right now, I'll take your questions.
Do you have any idea about
No, we have the suspect. Of course, that'll be a part of our investigation, part of the interview process. As you can see, it was very quick. There wasn't a lot of conversation, so we'll figure out if he knew him or not.
At one time there was a ban on weapons downtown. Is that still in effect?
So, I guess you're talking about when we used to do the closures, and we had the dogs, and that's what was going on downtown. That all went away with sort of the law changed. When the law changed, and basically you carry a weapon on a public street as long as you don't meet certain criteria. As long as you meet certain criteria. So when that changed, we can no longer do that. When the state law changed, you saw that we changed how we did downtown. We can no longer do the dogs limit what we had downtown. I know law enforcement's always changing. We are working with the city, working with the clubs downtown to figure out if there's something else we can go to sort of keep it secure down there. As you can see, with that many people down there, we have no idea what people have, on their person, if they have grudges against somebody. Most people are down there to have a great time, and of course, you always get those few people who come down there who have, who have different things on their mind.
Are the victims known, or are they friends of?
We're unsure of that. We're still doing an investigation. He's still being interviewed.
And not in the club itself, but any clubs any of the clubs downtown?
No, we pretty much watched him come from where he parked his car and went into, and we didn't see him going to any clubs. He pretty much walked into downtown, walked up the street, and did what he did. A handgun. No, not right now. We'll release that later. It'll be a part of the investigation. No officers fired any shots. We believe he's the only suspect right at this time. Who shots were fired from. So, in downtown Atlanta, but throughout the whole city, and throughout anywhere with law enforcement officers, they're always trained. They're always ready to act. As soon as they heard the shots fired, you can watch any of these videos. None of the officers, went the other way. They didn't go with the crowd. Most of them, got a little bit of cover between them. They started scanning, seeing what was going on, and then they moved. They took action to keep everybody else safe, and that's what these officers do. And that's their job, and they did it, and I'm very proud of them. The officers saw the second shot to be fired at Washington. Nobody saw the first one on Central. We used the cameras, of course, to see that, play it back. So we have that capability of playing back at major intersections. We played the camera back, saw the shooting happen. We put out his description right away, but then officers saw the second shooting happen. Because, you saw there was like 5 officers right there looking in that direction when he came and started shooting. And he shot multiple people right there. Yeah, whatever his mindset was, he was going to shoot no matter what. He walked by multiple officers. We followed where he came from. He walked by at least 10 officers, walked directly by them, kept moving past the officers. So he knew what he was going to do, what he thought his mind was going to do. It's unfortunate. Some people see somebody they don't like, somebody that, they have some sort of beef with, and they take whatever action they're going to take.
Point when he was walking by that first initial view that we showed us, he almost walks by the victim and leans back, points back, fires a shot, and then takes off. Are you guys investigating whether or not he may have known this person was following there?
Yeah, that's a big part of what we're looking at. Did he know him? Did he just happen to stumble across somebody who's one of his enemies for whatever reason? So that's all part of the case. But he definitely, you saw him, he looked back, saw him walk by him, he knew exactly what he saw, shot quickly, and then moved out. Yes. I think he just ran into the second scene because he ran down Court Street, came back up an alley, and popped back out. So, and there were people still just walking and running in different directions. Unless that person just happened to be there. From what we saw, he was walking, he was walking deliberately on Court Street, not really following anybody until he saw what he was looking for, and he popped back out on Orange. Yeah, yeah. But that's all part of our investigation. We'll be looking at all that kind of stuff and see, what it's about. As far as, we definitely make the arrests. Of course, juveniles do things like this, and we give the case to the state attorney, and he does it, he handles it and does a great job with it. So that's how we're going to prosecute. It's up to him if he wants to say anything about that. He's more than welcome to. I don't have the information now. We'll get it all to you, but I know the victims they range all from 19 to 39 years old.
Good morning, everyone. So we received a call shortly after the scene was secured. My chief of homicide is down there working with OPD and their detectives, and so this is just part of the collaborations that we put forth in our administration to make sure that we respond quickly to the needs of our community. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with the several victims that we have tonight. And so we're going to do our job to make sure that we secure justice for those victims. Yeah, we're definitely something that's on the table. Obviously, from multiple victims and the brazen nature of the crime, there's several aggravating factors that fit inside the matrix to charge him as an adult. But we have to get to completion of the investigation first, get the case turned over to us, and then we'll take appropriate action at that point. I'm not sure about it yet. Like I said, I received a call at 2:30 this morning. Was woken up and got dressed and came out here to make sure that we're going to do our job. So you got reported as a mass shooting. So, we have certain protocols for me as the chief executive of the agency. So I got put on what I'm told to put on for that situation. But this is we're ready to respond. So that's kind of my whole tactic. So I prepare myself to respond if I need to. I think that, like I said again, based on the current information we have right now, there's several aggravating factors that would lead us to charge him as an adult, but we need to get to the bottom of the investigation first to figure out what exactly is the reason why this happened, which also plays a role in what type of charges he's facing later on.
This seems all of the coming to fruition quickly. How important is the communication and collaboration between both the police department and your office?
It's essential. I think Chief did a press conference some weeks ago. I think you were clearing at 100% for the homicides, and that's based a lot on the collaboration between my office and the OPD. Our ability to work early on in those investigations, advise and make sure that we're not missing anything, and that we're making quick, clear arrest and solving cases makes our community safer. So that's part of one of the things I really wanted to get our agency up and running when I came into office last year.
We will definitely look at if we need to add other officers, but we're almost at 100 now. So, I mean, we have officers pretty much, as you can see, on every block, multiple officers on every block, bike patrols in between, our TAC units that are driving in the parking garages looking for, suspicious activity. We think we do a very good job. Our last major shooting was about, right before it began, about 2 years ago, with multiple casualties. So, I mean, downtown's very challenging, but the officers work very hard. But we will definitely meet and look and see if we can add any more resources over the next couple of days just to get through, especially Saturday night, to get us through Saturday night. Yeah, I mean, this is something that we can't do alone. I mean, I could put 200 officers down there, and like you saw in the video, he walked by multiple officers. He didn't really care. So it does start outside of what my job is. It starts, and I don't want to say it starts in the home, but it starts in our community coming together to work together and figure out a better way for people to solve their problems. Because it's just one of those kind of things that we all know shooting people solves nothing. This person right here threw away his life for what? For some little beef or whatever's going to come out in the investigation. We all know it's not going to be the most serious thing in the world when you take somebody's life. So it's one of those kind of things. We need everybody's help, but we'll continue to do what we do. We'll continue to provide heavy security downtown and have a large presence and be ready for anything that comes.
You guys know this video surveillance. Can you tell if there was any kind of altercation leading up to this, or where was his path? Where was he coming from, and how long was he downtown?
So we're going to release all that. He actually wasn't downtown that long before this happened. But the good thing about our surveillance system, we have a way of we pretty much can see where he came from, where he walked to, who we met up with, any conversations that happened, and sort of tell by how long we're standing in front of each other, what actually happened. So that's going to come. That's part of investigation. It's all going to come out in the next day or so. There'll be more updates. There are more videos, so we'll be releasing those. We do have to clean some videos up. We have to notify next of kin in a lot of cases. Our hearts do go out to the victims. It's a terrible tragedy that happened. But we do have to notify next of kin, and there'll be more videos that we can release and get it all out to you, including his history and everything on him, the suspect.
2 more questions. That's it.
Yes, they were shot by the suspect there at OMC. The last report we got was that they're all in stable condition so far. We assume, but it's hard to tell because he was in such a big crowd right there. It's hard to say who his actual target was. The victims? I'll have to find out about that. I'm not sure. I know most of them, we did get information from them, but a lot of this we had officers witness what happened, which is a lot easier for us for testimony. Then we have the cameras and all that, so it's a lot easier. But we will talk to everybody like we always do and get their statements and exactly what happened. But we'll get all that to you. I know it's a mix. All right, have a great night.
I have a lot of family living in that area. I just, I, I just be holding my breath. You know, a lot of them are men. I be holding my breath. 'Cause, you know, they like to be out and about. Mm-mm. But you know, when I was listening to the guys at the YSF trial, they were, asked talking about their education level when asked, and some or most of them hadn't graduated or what have you. And that's a shame to me. Because I know a lot of people make light of education or whatever for whatever reason. I don't know how that works. And I could say that, but listen here. Now, having an education doesn't mean that you won't turn to a life of crime. But what I'm saying is, if you have an education, look like to me, you maybe can rely on your education rather than a life of crime. That's all I'm saying. Being educated is an achievement, right? It ain't everything, but it's something. And it's what everybody has the opportunity to, achieve, but just some don't for whatever reason. And I just think that the people that had the common sense to continue shouldn't be made like, they are um, uncool or bad or whatever. It's weird to me. But yeah, I am eating in your ear. Sorry. And it is already cold. It's ridiculous. I shouldn't have to turn the food, light it up to hell. Ridiculous. These are some super vents, okay? Super damn vents. I told you. I showed you how they look. Well, a couple of them. Well, the goddamn cool. You don't even have to blow your food. By the time you sat back down, honey, this shit is cold. Somebody better do something. Because when it's cheaper to eat steak than chicken wings. The wings, y'all. Not eating the other part of the chicken. I can't get over that. I told Kelly I would pay attention, and boy, when I did, the damn wing, $25. You got to be kidding me. Mm-mm. But yeah, honey, I died last night when I was on live, and I had gotten um, a message about that area Mitchell kid, attorney lady, walking with some dude from the court. I haven't really paid attention to it, but baby, when the caption said the black lawyer already, I almost passed out. I don't know what the hell going on with her, but I found where she been out here. She did an interview with with Tasha K a couple of years ago, and mentioning the name of Chris Brown out her blasphemy mouth. Is she crazy? Is she crazy? Yeah, I saw her walking with her Burberry ensemble. I said, go on, girl. I mean, I know I got. Y'all know I'm quick. Hey, I'm quick to call motherfucker crazy. She looked kind of a little weird to me. I don't know. I don't know why she put all that red stuff on her cheekbone like that. Mm-mm. You gotta realize that when you were young and making fast money in the streets, and you made more money than the teacher said, sad to say, the education is that thing on young guys' mind. Yeah, I understand that. That's why we have to figure out a way to keep them out of those streets and keep them away from that temptation, right? Temptation will come in the form of a lot of things, right? Others, the allure of cars and stuff like that. I just, it is so much, so many things, so many areas that crime affect. It's ridiculous. Crime affects the nation as a whole because it causes prices to rise. It affects families, whether you are the victim or the victim. It affects employment. I mean, it's crazy. It is crazy, right? I can't get down with um sympathizing, right? I just can't get down with that. I'm in line with empathizing. A lot of people celebrated Thug being released, right? And it's fine because he got a good deal. He has a good deal. He also had to realize that in order for him to meet the conditions of that probation, he's gonna have to stay away from those certain people. And I like what the judge did because she put in those preset controls, right? Where hey, you can't go here, you can't go there, with helping him out because she knows that hey, people are problems. There's a lot of people that he can go around that can cause him to lose his freedom again. So she put in them preset controls. I like that. And I totally get what you're saying about having education, but if listen to these young men, they can barely articulate themselves. Right. And I don't want them being railroaded just because they don't understand, what's going on, whatever. Although Thug didn't graduate, you can tell that, he is a decent communicator. He has basic understanding. I just don't. I just don't see what the attraction is to violent crime. I don't get that. Because then it's a few ways that's going to turn out, and it's all going to be bad. I remember going to court with my daddy, and the judge. Okay, prior to me going to court him that particular time, he had been told. He said, "If you come back down here, you come back down here, you're gonna go away for a long." Well, he came back a couple times before the time I went with him. And man, the judge was like, you know what? He did a a um a theatrical illustration, honey. He sat up there. He had my dad's arrest record, the loan form, child, the loan form, and as he read it off, he just let it drop over the podium. Just let it drop, to illustrate that is long. And my dad up in the courtroom making faces and stuff, and he had my dad up there by the podium and had him facing the audience. It was crazy. It was crazy. Like, these people are sending SWAT and all these goddamn type people to come get you. Surrounded. And then he chilled out for a minute, and then it's just I don't get it. I don't get it. And then I have on that side, I have female cousins that wanted to learn, whatever. And they down with that. I'm like, huh? Huh, girl. So, and because my dad is a veteran, he has to go to St. Pete and shit like that for healthcare. I don't like all that. But anyway. I don't get it. And I told you how we family, right? How we family, okay? It doesn't matter if you in-law, if you whatever, your family. So my cousins used to get in trouble because they would like go to the movies and stuff like that. And a long time ago, everything was downtown. And the east side is actually downtown, right? Considered downtown. Like you take one or two turns and you in the heart of the east side. I won't call it the heart, but you in the you out east, right? You go down Main Street and all of that. You on the east side somewhere. So they would go to the movies or go, or whatever, or be allowed to catch a bus somewhere, whatever, and then they'll end up going out east to where, my dad, is or whatever, and running around looking for him, going to different corner stores and different places, looking for y'all know my uncle. Y'all know my uncle. You tell me what my uncle is? Can you tell me what my uncle is? I'm like, oh my gosh. Mm-mm. And it was so funny when I was married to the Walker husband, and he had to go back to the lady that used to cut his hair as a child, right? Because I told him, we're not getting Nike cutting our hair no more. The line, the rolls and stuff. And I'm asking, well, what does that mean? He talking about that's the crossroads. Remember Bone Thugs and Harmony used to have that's on the crossroad, meet me at the crossroads. He told me that's what it means all in his head. And I'm like, because he said he was down with the Angie plan. Well, the Angie plan is a complete makeover. And that's what we was doing. So he had to start going back to the lady who used to cut his hair off Florida Avenue, and all of that is the east side, right? That's where all the folk be. Um, it's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. So, you know, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, y'all, it seems like if you look over your life, it seems like, oh my gosh, you've seen a lot, you've been through a lot, you know, and when I say been through a lot, and that's including good times too. I trust me, I had way more good times than bad, you know. But um, you've done a lot and all of that, and then when you think about how short a year is, all the shit you do in a year, you'll be like, God damn, you got a lot done, you know. I don't think it's enough. I don't personally think it's enough. That's just my personal believe. It seems like I got a whole nother lifestyle. I be so scared. I'm like, Lord have mercy. Hope I ain't run out of life because I got a whole nother life of shit to do. Right? Mm-mm. So, but I'm, just thinking about like going back to the 80s and stuff like that, and then my cousins been telling me, about how they used to go over there and try to, because they know my dad is gonna give them a whole bunch of money. And my aunt, she was against anybody hanging around my dad and stuff like that. But now if something goes down, like I just listen. Man, I can get my cousin on the line, and we talk about when my daddy had to come by and save the day with one of my cousins, because he was going to be in a issue with the cops and somebody that he was arguing with over there at the green store. And I'm trying to tell you, in every neighborhood, the green store is never good. you you hear the green store repeatedly mentioned in the YSL case. I know we couldn't even go to the green store. I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you. I had Fat Girl Ambitions. The green store was the only store that had those chunky, no, those crunchy Cheetos. The Arab store and Mr. Ernest store, they didn't have those. You had to go to the green store to get them. I had Chunky Girl at Fat Girl Ambitions, y'all. I had to go get my fix. Mm, 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 mm. What? I remember that. That and them six X candies. And it was certain things that the green store had, and come to find out, they were selling that stuff at that store. They were selling that stuff, and it was like, and and the walk was so kind of, I don't know, and the walk was very very dark, to get to that green store. You know, the dark, it was so dark, y'all. It was like very desolate, right? It was like, let me see, it was one, two, three, and then it starts on the corner of the fourth block. And baby, I'm here to tell you. Mm, 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 mm. But we will walk it fast, and we would sometimes have to go with somebody. We have to beg and plead. But to go to Mr. Ernest's store, or to go to Blue Front, that's the Arab store. It was all right about that. It was pretty much, it's probably longer, okay, because you have to go up a stretch and then took a right. Now you can stop there at Mr. Ernest's store, but then you could, then but to go to Blue Front, you got to go like another block or so, and everybody just hang out. But yeah, now let me tell you something. I don't want to live in no hoods. I don't know. I don't understand. But I feel like I can go back to that hood and stay. It's just my opinion, and not be like nervous as hell. When we used to, drive back to the neighborhood, it was always me and Sean. Sean Jefferson, one that played in the NFL and all of that. And sometimes we would pass each other. Because I told you, if I hear somebody say, NJ, I know you, I know you're from. All my names, I can tell you. Every name, I can tell you where I know you from. When I hear it, I go to looking. I know, you know what I'm saying? I hear, hey, I know who that is. That's probably somebody that was ganging with me or something like that. I hear NJ, that's from the hood. I hear Hollywood, that's later on girls I was hanging around. I hear my whole name with the Walker on it, that is from like from 93 on. Those people that know me. I know exactly where every name comes from. Angie, that's like family and friends that not associated to any type of hood lifestyle or anything like that. Angie, that's just normal. Um, Little Red, that can be that's my dad and them people, or sometimes my daddy and the um somebody told me, of course, I don't know if, well, I can't say his nickname because he told me don't I better not tell nobody my my nickname that my dad called me as if he is the boss of me. He still act like he's the damn boss of me. So behind the scenes, we be calling each other our childhood nicknames. But he said, "I better not catch nobody calling you." Oh, y'all probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm like, God damn. Why he's where he the boss of me. Oh Lord, Mr. Jeff, I forgot. My language, pardon me. But he's where he the boss of me, y'all. So I can't tell you that name. So you just have to, my daddy and my father's side of the family, as well as my extra daddy. They call me Little Red because they call my mama Big Red. Big Red and Little Red. hmm But yes, so unfortunately, y'all, I can't tell you the other name my daddy called me because I've been threatened. I've been threatened. He said that's exclusive. Uh huh. That's so funny though. But as a child, you're supposed to have healthy, normal memories, right? And my cousins are like a lot of them are so much older than I am, right? Like you, like my cousin, like my mom and my aunt that you always see her on the pictures with, they 10 years apart. Okay, she was a bride early, like 20 or something like that. So her children are a lot older, like 20 years older than I am. Some even 22 or 23 years older than I am. I have a lot of cousins that older, much older than our first cousins. And I am the youngest. Thank you. Yeah, I'm the youngest out of the first cousin. Mm. I have a cousin that's born the same year as I, and then my other one of the Kennedys, her brother is born in the same year as he. So, and because we were kind of raised up pretty much together for the most part, um, we they would come from out of town, and then they would you know stay at one of the family houses, and we would always you know um, play and stuff, and then until the money broke us all up, and it's so crazy. Like when I gathered all of my family and friends and all of them on Facebook, um, and so that opened the door to a lot of conversations because the older ones they just died off without even talking to each other pretty much, um, for the most part. But our generation, us, we not don't like that. The older cousins, they the ones that are the children of my aunts and all of that, whatever, they kind of talk, here and there because they were tight, you know. But like a lot of them stay in other states all over the country. It's like, wow. And but so my cousin that's the same age as I am, I had, kind of explained, like, well, what happened? Like, well, why? I was like, okay, well, let me tell you about the money and stuff. Say what happened. And it's kind of hard talking about telling your cousins and stuff that because like your dad was a big reason as to what happened. If I'm not mistaken, how the story went? Cause see, I was there. You know, listen, I've been grown a long time ago. In the '70s, I was listening, and I told you, see, when that money thing blew up, and then my dad went on to the darn the jail and all of that happened. And we had to go to that godforsaken hood. And I told you I was in those people's office at school. Oh my gosh, we got to move to the hood. And I mean, I was distraught, honey. I knew something went right at that young age in elementary school. I knew, hey, if that money is funny, now y'all see me doing all that laughing and smiling on all them pictures, getting all them. Oh, I wish they had. I can get some of them pictures where I wonder my cousin have the pictures of them those wonderful Christmas that I used to have. Just go and leave my house. Then I go to my aunt who didn't have any kids. She got a set up. Yeah, just for me. And she used to be a manager at the King Edward Cigar Factory. And it was always a lot of money and ooh Lord honey. And my uncle. I used to have I had a present every day from somebody. Either my mom, my uncle, my aunt. One of them. And back then, like from French Novelty and the store was Ivy. And Maycorns, your fashion used to come in a box with a bow on it. Y'all remember that? Fashion used to come in a box with a bow on it. And wasn't Christmas time. That's just how they. I don't know what was the deal. Oh, it was a blue box or white box, depending on which store it came from. And that it was, woo, child, I had a good time. And when I all through elementary, my friends, my friends was had Teresa. I told y'all about these people: Teresa, Dina Rucal, Kim, um, some other white folk. We all lived in Arlington. And and they would let me go over, to their house. Their parents would pick me up or my mom and them would drop me, right? I'll tell you one time, I remember and I wasn't born, but I remember my daddy telling the story of like when they had first moved in that area that they had a cross or something in their yard or some shit. I was like, oh no. He said, best believe that was the first and the last cross they put in the yard. He said, we have no more problems. I was like, oh Lord. Oh Lord. We have no more problems. But yeah, that's crazy. That area was historically um, known for being racist and things like that. Yes, Lord. But Um, yeah, y'all remember y'all childhood? Y'all, we had a good time, didn't we, y'all? Good time. That's why y'all always hear people say, "Boy, if I can go back to when I was a child, Okay. I'm trying to tell you, I had a good time. But I always was soaking up the stories and the knowledge and everything that they would give and put out. I was born for that type of stuff. I like hearing the stories and all that. My dad, my, hey, let me run because I got other things to do. I got a busy week. Make sure y'all go vote. A no vote is a vote for Trump. Make your vote count. Be smart. And I don't know if anybody want to do a watch Tuesday. I'm trying to tell y'all, please Lord, I might have to go get me some drink. I might have to get me some drink, y'all, cause I ain't gonna be able to take it. I'm just gonna lay down. Oh, but listen, at least, cause I'll be by myself this time, so I'm gonna need y'all. I'm gonna need some help for the YouTube and Facebook. If I figure out how to do it with Instagram too, it's gonna be terrible. Oh Lord, why I got to be so hard? Anyway, hey, yeah, make your vote count. Make your voice heard. Let's always do something good for yourself and someone else. Make today a good day and tomorrow even better day. And I'm out of here, and so are you.